I'm down. We're 3 minutes behind.
We're
Oh my.
almost 4 minutes behind, but
Well, we've been.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was here before I got started. Can you guys hear me? Hear us in virtual world? Yes. Okay. First and foremost, I guess, welcome to our Thursday, March 23rd, 2023 PBAC monthly meeting. I want to do a shout out to Saline, who is not here today, but gave me all the detailed instructions that I needed to get this set up. So hopefully it will run smoothly. Yeah, look at this. I'm on it so far. So far. Well, it's all thanks to Saline's excellent organization and detailed step-by-step instructions. So I'm going to try and multitask a little more than I normally do. So be patient with me. Let's start with some introductions. My name's Kara Haley. I work for the city of Pullman, current PBAC chair, and we'll go around the room.
Eileen McCall, Pullman City Council representative.
Paul Kimmel, Latah County representative.
Mark Story, Whitman County Public Works.
Jeff Lanigan, not to be confused with Jeff Langman. Washington State University Facility Services.
Sandra Kelly, Moscow City Council.
Rusty Vineyard, Director of Facilities, University of Idaho.
All right, and we'll jump over to, well, actually, you're not here at the table with us today, Lana. Come on over. We'll start though.
Lana Cohen, U of I academic representative filling in for Tim Lake.
Yes, we got
You're
you.
one of us, okay?
Come on over to the table.
David Hull, Latah County resident.
Robert Nimmer, Alpha Science and Engineering.
Okay. We will jump over to virtual world. Let's start with Tom Handy.
Yeah, Tom Handy, Whitman County Commissioner.
Okay, I see we have Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick Cabot, Washington State Department of Ecology, Water Resources Program.
Okay, we have Jeff Langman, not to be confused with Jeff Lanigan.
Hi, everyone. Jeff Langman, UI Earth and Spatial Sciences. I'm just checking in to make sure everything's good for Alan and Rebecca to talk to you because I'm in the middle of class right now.
Okay. Well,
as long as we're good.
Let's go to Alan and make sure that we can hear those guys.
Hopefully we're good. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right. And we have Alan and it's Rebecca, right?
Yeah, we're from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution.
Which we will be hearing from just in a little bit. Let's see, Colt.
Colt Shelton, JUB Engineers.
We have Allison.
Allison Lebeda, Nez Perce Tribe Water Resources Division.
And let's see, did I miss anyone new in the room? Steve, how could I forget Steve?
Steve Robichon, PBAC Technical Advisor.
All right. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start into our agenda items. So our first is approval of minutes from our last meeting, which was February 16th, 2023. Those were included in the agenda packet. Any comments, motion?
I would move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Paul, seconded by Eileen. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. Okay, sorry, again, you'll have to bear with me. All right, so our next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. So I'll open it up for any of those, David.
David Hall, I'd like to suggest that both Moscow and Pullman continue looking at making a water use budget for each, would give them a tool for regulating the use of the municipal waters for big users coming in. Either municipality has made any headway on that, but I think it's could be an important tool.
Okay. Appreciate the comment. Are there any other comments? Okay. All right, we don't have any unfinished business, so we'll skip over that and we will move on to new business. And so this item, we did have an amended agenda that came out, if you didn't catch all those lovely emails, but this has to do with the Genesee well and getting a data logger set up in it. And I'm going to pass it off to Steve to do this discussion.
Okay, thanks, Kara. Those of you that haven't been following along, City of Genesee drilled a new well into the lower aquifer, and the well driller's log indicated that the rock sequence looked very similar to the wells in the Moscow Pullman area, and the static water level in that well is in the same ballpark as the static water levels in the Moscow Pullman area. So what we're trying to do is gather some more information to see whether the Genesee well might be hydrologically connected to those wells inside what we're now calling the Palouse Basin. So there's two pieces to that. One piece is to have the geochemistry of the well chip samples analyzed. I think that was approved at a previous meeting, and that's going to go to WSU, and they're going to analyze the well chips.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece is to get a water level transducer in that well so that we can see whether the water level behavior is similar to that inside of the basin, or if it's possibly outside the basin in its own little basin. And City of Genesee had originally intended to just purchase a transducer and connect it to this thing called a programmable logic controller, a kind of an industrial computer up at the surface. And they weren't going to store any information from that transducer. They were just going to have a readout of what the water level is. And then if the water level gets low enough, they would sound an alarm so that they could deal with shutting the pump down. So in order to collect water level information and store it so that we can look at it after the fact and see how the hydrograph looks, the project engineer asked the controls subcontractor how much that was going to cost. Controls subcontractor said it would cost $4,500 to program this PLC industrial computer to actually collect the information, store it, and then output it in a format that we would be able to use it to make a chart of the water levels. So this would be a direct pass-through through the City of Genesee, where the control person would charge Genesee, we would pay Genesee, and they would pass the money through to the control person, so there wouldn't be any markups or any other uses for that. But the control person's quote was $4,500 to do that task.
Yeah.
I have some questions on that. So this is Jeff from WSU. I guess my concern is that knowing how industrial controls tend to work, that puts the management of that data in Genesee's court, and they've probably got other things to do as well. Or even more so into their vendor's court. I would prefer to see I think it's a great idea to have data logging at that well. I just think if it's PBAC's, it'd be in our interest to have our own data logger there. If they want to do their thing, I think we ought to divide the two somehow. Because it worries me paying them. I just know how that tends to work. It's not their priority. They're not going to worry about it. If we're looking to get the data, we ought to provide the means to do so.
I agree with you, Jeff. Originally, when we talked to the engineer and the engineer talked to the folks at Genesee, we had intended to install our own data logger in that well, but they had some reservations about putting another instrument in their well casing, and they said they didn't really want to deal with someone else's logger inside the well because the access was limited, and they had the probably reasonable concerns about that. And so they said they would much prefer just allowing us to get the data that they're collecting. Their part of the control system quote included having the control system person train the maintenance person at the city of Genesee to actually be able to do that himself and not have to involve the control people. But you're exactly right about the fact about, 5 years from now, what happens if the maintenance person changes or some other priority comes up? Those are things PBAC needs to weigh. The only other thing we might be able to do is just bother the maintenance person once a month or whatever period we find reasonable to actually go look at the readout of the water level and send us the email saying what the water level readout is. But then that would involve PBAC requesting the information every month and becoming a thorn in the side of the Genesee folks. So I agree with you. I think that the quote is a little expensive, but really it seems like at this point, it's about the only thing we have going with them, unless we wanted to say, we're not interested now, and maybe we'll wait till the well chip analysis comes back. And if the sequence is the same, then we'll talk to you about getting the control system guy to make that happen.
Steve, do you have any ideas if we took that latter approach about how much it would cost for us to just deploy our own data logger? If I know that they haven't technically agreed to that, but if we took a wait and see approach and came back, is there a savings? Is it more than 4,500?
For us to deploy a data logger could probably happen, or to have Alta deploy a data logger for us would probably cost a little over $1,000, but less than $2,000. But then it would involve someone from PBAC or PBAC's contractor to go visit that well, to pull the logger out, to make a manual measurement, and to do all those things and all the complications that are associated with that. Also, when they pull these pumps for maintenance, they would be pulling our logger, and sometimes it's difficult to actually get them to reinstall loggers in the well the way that they were installed originally. And so there's complications with that. I think the main concern is they have one access tube and one access port, and they don't want to be running two transducers down that port and having us come along and pull one out and put it back and pull one out and measure the water levels and do all that when they don't really know about our program and how long we've been doing it and how kind of good at doing it we are by now.
Okay. And I did read some of the correspondence that I was CC'd on, and it sounded like at least initially they seemed willing to get us the data, but to Jeff and your point, who knows what that looks like in a few years potentially.
Yeah.
But is that your gut feeling that they are willing to do it at least in the short term?
Oh yeah, I think definitely they're willing to do it now. And the other thing you may want to think about is, there's a chance that this well chip analysis will prove that they're not in the same basin as we are, and it will have been $4,500 thrown down the tube for data that we don't really care about when it's outside of the basin and it doesn't really have any impact on the water levels inside the basin.
Okay, I have one more question, which we probably haven't asked them. If we chose to wait, do we think down the road we could come back and pay this $4,500 to them at that point, or is it a whole new negotiation and discussion at that point?
That's kind of speculating on my part. I mean, the project engineer told me it was time sensitive last week and they needed an answer right away since it would be a pass-through. And to me, the control person should be able to make a quote after the fact, but if he were doing an estimate and saying, well, that's a separate trip, that's a separate training trip, all that, it might end up being more than $4,500 down the road, but
Okay.
you know, I guess we just have to talk to the project engineer and see what he thinks about that.
Other questions, discussion?
I
on
guess,
this?
so Steve, absent our financial contribution, will this not happen?
This programming of the logic controller will not happen, correct? And the maintenance guy won't get trained on how to deal with storing the information, grabbing it out of the controller and storing it for transmittal. And so what the current contract calls for is just to make readouts and alarms, not going to store anything. They're not really looking to keep any of the information. They just want to have real-time information.
Mhm.
So they'll still have the ability to see their levels.
Yes,
Correct.
Water levels, yeah,
but like
but
on a
not on
real-time
a
basis,
historic basis.
not going back and.
Yeah.
Do you know what interval they agreed to trend that data at, Steve?
Well, we can do it at any interval they want us to program it to, but I think what we had planned was 1 hour intervals.
Okay. Well, I guess given that it sounds like if they don't want our logger in there, and this is something we need to act on immediately, we may lose the opportunity entirely. As much as I'd like to have it be kind of our thing to deal with, it sounds like the $4,500 in the scheme of things, the research budget, it's pretty flush. I think it's something we ought to probably proceed with. My hope is that maybe the operator will discover that's a useful asset on it for his operations as well. And therefore it'll stay working for a while.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and this becomes just another community education piece for us if we have that data and we can access it, use it and do what we do the magic that we do with it. And when we do community outreach, we can go out and say, and part of our community is Genesee and here's their data.
Mhm.
So that's educating the public is always the toughest part of any equation.
Mhm.
But if you don't have any tools in your toolbox, then you're completely boned. So yeah, it's the best of a not ideal bargain to have quality data and nag them about it. We may have to nag them about it.
And if we find that they're connected, you know, we want to start off on a good, on a good note, right?
Right,
Mhm.
yep, you're now part of the family and we're all in this together, you know,
Okay, so I'm hearing
I would turn that into a motion to approve the $4,500.
out of the research
Out of the
budget, so we
research
need the major entities to make this.
we don't have the city of Moscow, so we need it.
I can, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Lee's here representing.
Yeah.
Tyler was such a large press.
Boy, don't I know that.
So sorry.
That's all right. So I may need help with the wording on this. Yep.
So you're looking to, again, expend 4,500 out of the current research budget for, you talk the last little piece, or what's the last piece of this motion we want to move?
What did I miss?
For, I guess, employing a data logger.
Yeah, to employ the data logger via this existing PLC at the wellhead.
Is it?
Just a comment. It said the estimate's 4,500. You may want to allocate just a little more than 4,500 because stuff happens.
See.
I might throw this in there. I think the word that I was getting in the emails was quote.
Quote.
You know, personally, I think $4,500, you could program that thing every way but Sunday for $4,500 unless they're really got a decently high hourly rate. So I think there was a quote, and there's probably a lot of slack in there.
My guess is it's going to take another piece of hardware in the PLC to actually log the data.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, it's probably some good clarification. I am reading over some of the language. I know I see here at one point, Steve, you had a 4,500 not to exceed, but I don't know if they picked up on that. You know, hopefully they might be willing to pitch in a little bit to your effect. This would be a benefit to them as well. So,
Can they just invoice us based on what they?
I mean, we could make a motion.
Or show us
with
their
the
invoice and we can
4,500
reimburse.
with a little
Over
bit
the-
of a cushion or a 5% increase.
Or just say not to exceed 5,000 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And that's all I was thinking.
That would be
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me read you the couple of sentences from the email from the project engineer. First one is the $4,500 is a one-time fee for programming the PLC to record the water level data in hourly intervals, along with other pertinent information, and to train the city on how to download the data periodically. Last sentence in that paragraph is the $4,500 quote is a direct cost pass-through for the city with no markup.
There you go. So I mean, it sounds like they've written themselves into $4,500.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, do you want to amend your motion?
Wow, okay.
You got it.
Amending my motion, I move that we.
Get them in because it died.
It didn't.
We didn't have a second.
Did not
Yeah.
have a second.
So,
So just start over.
yeah, I move that we authorize not to exceed $5,000 to program the PLC to log the data at the Genesee well and provide us the information on some reasonable interval.
Yes, out of the research budget.
Yep, that's
Okay,
correct.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Sandra. Jeff, like I said, hold on. Okay, all those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay. So the motion passes.
Karen, can I get a show of hands? Who thinks we're connected? Who thinks we're not?
What do you mean connected?
No.
Oh, really? You want to make a vote on this?
Are you taking a wager?
I know, is that on the?
Public meeting.
Yeah,
Are
we
you-
can do it.
Are you posting odds, Paul?
I want Steve to vote virtually first.
Yeah,
Steve to vote virtually first.
I say no.
I'd say no.
I'm gonna say yes, just for fun.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Go against the grain.
Yeah.
What about online? What do we have?
So we just voted. right?
And Steve can't chime in until the end, I don't think. That wouldn't be fair.
I could go either way, but I'm curious.
Your glass is half full. Okay.
All right, we're gonna move on because we have some folks.
Yeah.
Who are, oh, no, actually. Yes,
Yeah,
because we have some presentations. We're gonna move on because we have some folks who are here to give a presentation. And our first one is related to well sampling. This is with the Woods Hole Oceanographic, I don't know if I even said that right, institution. They can correct me. We have Alan Seltzer and Rebecca Tyne. And do I need to try and share, allow you guys to share somehow?
Yeah, let's see if we, oh, it looks like, I think we can.
Okay.
Hopefully this works.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
good.
there was, in the agenda packet that Eileen prepared, there was a letter, I believe, that was sent from you, Alan, and we're just. glad to
That
have
is
you.
right.
So I'll let you take it away.
Great, and one thing I'll say is, I think there's a list of wells that we're hoping to sample that was maybe attached to that letter. And I think it wasn't the latest list, so we have a more current list and anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. So we circle back to this list of wells, the one we'll present here is the most current, and we can share an updated list.
Okay.
Great. Let me see, we've lost our view of you guys, but I guess that's okay. Great. Well, I'll thank you guys very much for having us virtually. So I'm Alan Seltzer. I'm a geochemist at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution here in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. I run a lab that specializes in dissolved gas measurements primarily in groundwater. Specifically what we measure are the noble gases, which if you can think back to high school chemistry, the far right-hand column of the periodic table. And they're special because they don't react with anything. So they're really good tracers in hydrology for things like, as I think Becca will probably tell you about in a minute, things like the temperature at which groundwater equilibrates with soil air, and some of the isotopes of these gases are produced in the aquifer, so they tell us about sort of the transport pathways, the age of the groundwater, and other physical properties related to groundwater recharge and transport. You should introduce yourself.
I'm Rebecca Tyne. I'm a postdoc scholar here working in Alan's lab. And I also have a background in noble gases, trying to understand groundwater systems and hydrologic connectivity.
Great. Let's see. So we prepared a couple slides. I don't think I know you guys have a busy schedule, so we won't take up too much of your time. The basic gist of all this is we've been in contact with Jeff Langman, and I think all this came about basically because Becca led some work, some field work, and some really nice lab measurements last year over to sort of the northwest of you guys, in I guess sort of central eastern Washington.
Around Moses Lake.
And we learned some fairly interesting things in terms of trying to understand sort of the this particular tracer of groundwater age and flow in the Columbia River. Sorry. Is that a question?
No, sorry, we just had a little feedback.
Okay.
So
Cool.
close the door.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So just to get to the point, we've been in contact with Jeff, and we read a scientific paper that was published by Jeff's group, and I think it was led by Kyle Duckett, that sampled a lot of the wells in your various regions, and so I think our list of wells includes some of those as well, and so the hope is sort of to go back, collect some samples, make a couple other measurements that might add to the story that Jeff's group's been working on. So let's see, you want to?
So these are just the things we want to learn about the system. We want to learn about the groundwater residence time. So this is the amount of time that the groundwater has been isolated from the atmosphere, the flow paths, where the groundwater has been recharged, and also about the past environmental conditions. So as Alan said earlier, we can learn about the temperature at which the water went underground, and we can also look at how deep the water table was when it went underground as well. So these are like the main things that we want to learn from this study, and that, as Alan said, it will be like building on Jeff Langman's group's research using these like new novel traces that we've developed here.
Great. Yeah, let's see. I guess in particular, what we're going to measure, and I guess maybe I should have said this at the beginning, but the hope is that we'll sample about 20 wells in total. The sampling doesn't take very long, so we're planning to come out May 7th that week, and should be able to hopefully do it, provided everyone, you guys are okay with it and can give us access to the wells. Sampling's quick, so hopefully we can do it that week. And all of the data we generate, we'll obviously pay for all of the analyses, and we'll share all of it with you. So we'll also share all the reports and scientific publications that come out. So hopefully the information will be useful and interesting to you and your constituents as well. But what we'll be measuring is the radiocarbon activity of dissolved inorganic carbon in groundwater, which is in principle a tracer of groundwater age, and some measurements have definitely been made. But there are problems with it. So understanding sort of the systematics of how this actually works is really interesting, and also super important for actually really constraining the distribution of residence times in the system. So to complement that, we'll be making some rather new and exciting measurements of things like krypton 81 and argon 40 and helium 4 in various labs, including our own, that together provide a lot more insight into the system. And I guess for now, I don't know that we need to go into details about specifically all of these things, but certainly happy to answer any questions. And then as Becca mentioned, we'll be making some other types of measurements of these noble gases that are dissolved in groundwater to shed light on sort of the past recharge environments, with the hope that we could understand sort of long-term environmental signals that might be preserved by old groundwater. So yeah, Becca, do you want to talk about the wells that we're thinking about?
So we were trying to get a selection of wells of different depths in the area. So we've selected these wells, which we think are along a flow path based on Kyle's work. I just wanted to show you a map, but I feel like it's probably more useful to you guys if I put the names up. So these are the names of the wells, and we've selected them. We've selected them in the hope that some of them are from the Grand Ronde, some of them are from the Wanacom along this flow path that Kyle suggested in his work is there. So yeah, these are, I think there's 20 wells that it would be great if we could have access to the sample that we
Yeah, and I guess our understanding, so we've kind of gone back and forth with Jeff, who's been super helpful in suggesting which wells are up and running and which ones would provide access to the various depths that we're interested in. And so hopefully all of these are running, but I guess you guys can probably tell us if that's the case. And I guess the outcome of all of this is that if if everyone's interested and on board with this project, if we could just figure out who specifically, I guess, to talk to, just to arrange sampling, then we can try and put together a schedule. And based on availability and all that, hopefully we can figure out a way to sample something like 4 wells per day over that week. Is that it? That's pretty much it. Cool. So yeah, we're happy to take any questions, and yeah, thanks again for having us and for being receptive to our hopeful sampling plans.
Yeah. Is there any questions for Alan and Rebecca?
I had a question. This is Jeff Lanigan. I'll enunciate from WSU. Quick note, wells WSU 5 is not functioning. So we will probably want to find a different well if you're looking for that particular depth.
Yep.
I am curious what your sampling procedure looks like, just so I can relay that to my staff. Be glad to participate and help, but I was just trying to understand what exactly you need to do.
Yeah. Sorry, we probably should have said that. So it's pretty quick. Yeah, let me go back to so we have some pictures of what this actually looks like. It's not as involved as what's shown on the right here. This was from a similar campaign that I participated in Israel last year, which was pretty neat, but they were measuring a lot more stuff. Basically it just, I mean, I assume, so for us to collect a good sample, the well needs to be purged something like 3 casing volumes worth. But I think since these are all running and they're all pretty high throughput wells, I don't even think that's an issue at all, I assume. What we would do is we show up, we have a YSI probe, which you guys might be familiar with. If you can see the mouse, Becca is highlighting it. We quickly just make sure that the temperature and pH are stable and write down those field parameters, oxygen as well. Right, and then we collect several different types of samples. So you can see in this picture here, there's a copper tube being sampled. So we have a typical hose fitting, some tubing, collect the first batch of samples, which are these copper tubes, collect a couple glass vials.
The radiocarbon.
Yeah, for radiocarbon and for measure and trace dissolved ions. And then we hook up these funky looking 6-liter stainless steel flasks These are under vacuum. And so we have a little, just some tubing that goes and makes a bubble-free and airtight connection to these flasks. And then we fill them up and we sort of weigh them to figure out how full they are. So we fill them about halfway. We'll collect 2 of those per well. For all the shallow ones, that's it. And that whole thing takes, 20 minutes to half an hour. For some of the deep wells, we would like to do this more involved Krypton 81 sampling. It's not that much more involved. It's just after we would do this, we would hook up the tubing to a field degassing system that's hooked up to a car battery. And what that allows us to do is to extract the gases and pressurize them into a canister that we can send off to a lab that is able to measure this super rare isotope that is a good chronometer, a good groundwater residence time tracer. I should also mention it's not just the 2 of us, we'll be traveling with 2 other people, and we'll have 2 different cars. So it should be hopefully pretty efficient where we can like have someone set up, we'll do the 20-30 minutes of sampling. Someone can wait, takes a little longer for this degasser to run. Someone else can go out to another well and collect a couple more and then come back. So we're hoping it should be pretty feasible to do about 4 per day. Maybe even more. Does that make sense? Sound reasonable?
Yep, that's helpful. Thank you. I just sitting here thinking about it. Our Spillman farm well might be in the same general depth as well 5, so maybe that might be a substitute.
Okay. Spillman Farm, you said?
Correct. It's just south of Pullman.
Perfect.
And I do see there's a few private ones, yes?
Couple.
Just even our UI wells are managed by our sub-operator, McKinstry, so we need to evolve.
Yeah. Do we think, so I know you probably have a contact from McKinstry. I was thinking at least for our Pullman crews, this video will be posted live too. So if we want to, or not live, after the fact, so we could give even McKinstry folks or anyone who's interested, our operators, we could tell them what video this is at if they want to get a little bit more information on it. And then we could get Alan and Rebecca, we could get you contact phone numbers and emails for each, I guess. So UI, Moscow, WSU, Pullman.
Or does Kyle sample all these?
Steve might know the answer to that.
I
No.
think he sampled about half of them.
Okay.
I think Elks Golf Club 3 is private.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if Tyler or somebody has a contact for someone there.
We can get it. Yeah.
Most of these, obviously it looks like they're mostly the universities and the cities, with the exception of Elks Golf Club 3. Could we have folks maybe email?
Just, yeah, for
Email
WC.
either, Saline or the PBAC email, as well as myself, just in case Saline's busy with her full-time job.
Position.
Yeah, we can get this off to you, Alan and Rebecca, probably sooner rather than later, so you guys can start making those contacts. And then if our PBAC reps, I'll probably put a little notice out to my folks first, so that they are expecting some sort of call and they're not caught completely off guard. So I would say maybe we can get you contacts in the next week, and each of our representatives here can reach out to the appropriate folks and give them a bit of a heads up, and we'll send emails and phone numbers. Yeah.
Thank you, that would be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. What we can do is maybe, should we send you an email with the updated list so we can swap out Spillman Farm for WS5?
And a copy of this power.
Yeah, and maybe a copy of the PowerPoint wouldn't hurt, a PDF or something of it. And then when Saline gets the minutes put together as well for this meeting, that might be something I can share back to everybody, in case they want to share that with their representatives, so they can actually watch this discussion. They'll probably ask what the sampling procedure is, so rather than regurgitate all that, they can reference this as well. The new list would be helpful as well, since I think, like you said, the one that was listed before was quite a bit different than this one, so.
One other quick thing, looking at this WC7, although it was drilled to a depth of 2,200 feet or thereabout, there's a plug in it at 1,800. If it matters.
That's helpful enough, thanks.
This is Steve. A couple of specific comments too. Moscow City 6 is currently out of service. I don't know whether that'll be back in service or not by the time you come. Moscow Well 4, Moscow City 4 doesn't really exist. That was a dry hole that was drilled a long time ago on the east side of town, and that really isn't a well.
Okay. That's really helpful. So, okay, so we'll go ahead and maybe suggest some alternates in our revised list.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, so then what we'll do is we'll send you an email, maybe with like a quick 2-sentence overview to of what the sampling process looks like and maybe a rough time estimate. That's helpful. Send you that, the updated list of wells, the PowerPoint, and then just again, we'll just give you the dates, which I think it would be the week of May 7th, or 8th, May 8th. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, then I think we can follow up shortly thereafter with some specific contacts for you guys.
Perfect.
And then you guys can reach out to them directly and work through some of those coordination logistics. Okay.
And share with us for.
Yeah, I did see in the letter that you guys would be willing to share the results. Is that correct? And maybe come back and then give a presentation after the fact. What is your timeline? I'm just curious on when you might have results back, or, you know, what's the long.
Pretty soon.
Yeah, some of the results we should have within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I think that 81 Krypton results might be slower, but everything else should be done pretty quickly.
Okay. Well,
That will have to come with an explanation of what
it all means.
Yeah, Krypton 81 doesn't mean a lot to me, I'm sorry. So.
Yeah. So there'll be a scientific paper that comes out of it. We'll obviously share that. We'll share the raw data, and we'll it depends on what stage we're at. So yeah, we could give you maybe a quick update in something like 2 months, but once we have all the data and we've interpreted and written up the manuscript, we could do a more formal, maybe 10-minute presentation with all the relevant background info. Maybe, I don't know, something like 6 to 10 months from now or something like that.
Okay, that sounds great. And we can just remain in communication about it too if things change. So.
Great. Thank you guys again. Really
thank you guys very much. This sounds super interesting and
way cool.
Yeah, it's very neat. So
way cool.
Great.
And you guys are in Massachusetts? Is that where you guys are located?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Have you guys been out to? Well, you have been out to Idaho, probably, or at least Rebecca, you have, or Washington for your other work. So
yeah, we came last year.
Okay. All right.
But never to Pullman or Moscow, so looking forward to visiting.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more communications and look forward to working with you guys.
Should have a reception.
Good.
I'm serious.
May 7th.
Well, whatever works.
Maybe Tom could host.
I like that idea, but I mean, seriously, because I mean, anytime anybody's talking about water or whether it's riparian or marine or whatever, I mean, Woods Hole is the name. And to have these folks interested in our project here is huge. And as we get into our community outreach and all the work that Robin has done on the water alternatives, this is seriously a feather in our cap. And I think to promote this, I think this is a PR opportunity that we should just absolutely make the most of.
What do we think about tasking some of that to our communications community?
Absolutely.
That's a great suggestion, Eileen. And of course, we've got Paul here.
Like a good party.
Hell yes.
I do think that's a good point, and it's a great suggestion.
Might be worthy of a press release of some sort.
Absolutely. Yes.
Beer takes a lot of water to make, so it's all good.
It's a large.
Can I get that on a
footprint,
t-shirt? Yeah.
All right, well, any other questions or comments for Alan and Rebecca? Not seeing any, but thank you both again for being here today and talking through this, and we'll follow up shortly.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, yes. Let's see, if you guys want, there you go. Stop screen sharing. So our next presentation discussion item is going to be led by Mr. Paul Kimmel. And it's, if we have anything to share at this point, related to a PBAC participation in a potential feasibility study for alternative one.
Sure, and as Robin's report indicated, suggested there, potentially might be a partnership with a utility on a pump storage project to get the water lifted. So I've been having some internal conversations with my company about that, and we're considering doing some feasibility work on a number of pump storage sites. In the state of Washington now, pump storage is considered a clean generation resource. Although it's still not quite economically feasible, but it's in our integrated resource plan. So we're having those internal discussions, and what I have suggested is if, and certainly we would include this site or thereabouts, that vicinity, as one of those sites that we would study, part of a feasibility study. So there may be a request to cost share a little bit on that. But at this point, I don't know if I have a firm commitment on funding yet, so what that cost share might look like. But again, that conversation is happening. So hopefully by next month, we'll know. We've got a proposed scope of work, working with a number of engineering consultants. So got a pretty good idea. So hopefully by next month. Cool.
More to come. Okay. Any questions, comments for Paul? Okay. We will move on to the UI PBAC plan. And I was secretly hoping Tyler would be here to give this because he and Saline have been kind of leading the show on this one. And Rusty's been involved as well, but I have some quick notes. So Saline did quite a bit of work before she stopped working full-time for us. And she prepared a report that was requested by U of I that went off to Brian Foisey. He gave them some feedback and comments. I think we maybe sent some additional information and data along. And that report has been passed off to the research VPs and President Green, it's my understanding. That went out on March 14th, so we're just waiting to hear back. Anything else to add, Rusty?
Nope.
Okay.
I've kind of been on the fringe of that one. Tyler and Saline have been largely leading that process.
Yep, so I think I'm optimistic at this point, but they've done a lot of groundwork to keep that moving forward. So we'll see what comes out of that. Hopefully have another update at the next meeting. Our next, I'm missing something. Any questions, comments around that item? Nope. So our next agenda item are subcommittee reports. And so the first item listed here is an update on the transition. And I guess I realize a lot probably has happened since our last meeting.
Sure, from a job posting standpoint, it should be posted any day now.
Yep, so Rusty's done a great job. Thank you, Rusty, for spearheading that, working through the UI HR process, forms, everything that has to go into that. But like Rusty just said, we should have the job posted any day now. I do want to put a plug. I know Saline will work to have it posted on the website. We'll send it out to everybody in the committee and ask people to push it as much as they can through their own avenues as well. So really just spread the word. I don't know if we know when the closing date will be yet, but I guess when we get
30 days from the
30 days from the posting. So and then once that gets posted to either myself or Saline, will be reaching out, and we'll probably have another one of our transition subcommittee meetings to kind of talk through the next steps and see what that looks like. So we'll be doing our best to get somebody on board as soon as possible. In the meantime, Saline has agreed to help us in the transition phase and is still knocking it out of the park. So, again, many thanks to her for agreeing to do that. But you know, we're not going to sign her up with a bunch of new tasks and things. So we are just a reminder, we are in somewhat of a, you know, there's a few things we're going to have to prioritize and keep things moving and the admin side of things. So that'll be our priority in getting somebody on board. We'll go ahead and move on to budget subcommittee report update. I have a note, actually, I think I can pull this up. Let me see if I can do this right. Okay, now I fall apart here. See if I can figure this out. I know I pulled up.
Do you have it open already?
I do.
There you go.
Well, can you guys see this if I just pull this up? Oops, never mind.
You
No.
gotta share the screen.
Okay, so which, this is where,
The one that says launch
that's the
meeting.
edge.
Yep.
Okay, see that? I knew I needed some help. I knew I was, and I need this to move out of the way. Hold on, hang tight, everybody. I don't want to hit stop sharing because that's not gonna, there we go. It is. Okay. I think, nope, that's not it either.
It's under the green area.
Is it really right here? No, where'd it go? I could've
Wasn't it
sworn
right there?
I had it open. No, I'm just going crazy.
You might have shared the wrong window.
That's quite possible. This is why I told you all in advance, you have to be patient with me. My screen sharing. Okay, let's try this one more time. Let me find it. I must have exited out of it, right? That's probably what I did. Okay. So here it is. I'm gonna try this one more time. I think we can do it.
We're rooting for you here.
I'm a little happy. I'm sorry, everybody.
There we go.
Here we go. I got it, I'm sure.
I'm stressed out.
Okay.
I got this way.
All right, so up here. I'll go down. I guess you all had it in your packet too, but it's a little bit easier to talk about it if you pull it up. So this is the similar format to the budget, you know, update report that Faylene gave us at our last meeting. I have a couple notes for takeaways, I guess. The invoice from Fuse for the infographics and the nice figures did come out of the admin fund since last month. Money was moved from the program account to the admin account. And then the Latah County ARPA funds got moved into the program account, is my understanding. Yeah, I believe so.
It should have, I mean, I approved the final step to move forward on that process.
Okay, so I see that 50,000 over here in this line item. Trying to think a couple big takeaways. Those are the basics that I have, and we're going to have a little bit more of a discussion here about next steps and needs and you know, revenues and expenditures. But this was the overview of where things are at presently. I will open it up for questions, but I can't promise I'll have a great answer. Okay, no questions. We'll move on to so the other thing that the budget subcommittee worked on, scroll down, was a memo to talk about the status of PBAC funds and future contribution increases. I'm hoping everybody had a chance to read it. It's about 3 pages long. If people didn't, we can dive into it a little bit closer and you know, go through it if you guys want to go that route, in the event that folks hadn't done that. But a little bit of the overview is essentially when we looked to hire Saline last time around about 1.5 years ago, we had an executive manager position that was 3/4 time. We went ahead and reinstated the position to an executive director and made it a full-time position. And even at that time, we had discussions really the reserves would allow us to do that for a few years, and then we'd be at the point where we would need to look at upping our administrative funds to be able to cover that change to status and position. So this is really just following up with that. It was something that we knew we would need to discuss at some point. The goal for today is really just to have the discussion with the greater committee. The budget subcommittee has gone through this fairly closely and talked about it. Again, we can dive into it closer if you want to. I'm going to go down here to the recommendations section. And there's a few things that are laid out for us to ideally specifically discuss. Kind of what, and if anyone from the budget subcommittee wants to chime in too, certainly feel free.
Sure.
I think one of the big takeaways that's laid out in the report is talking about a 25% to 30% increase to the admin account or to the admin funds, and that would be in fiscal year 25 is the way that it's kind of laid out in this memo based on when.
Yeah, well, a couple options. I mean, it's laid out in a way is what Saline has done is we're currently outpacing our revenue with expenses. And she lays out multiple options. And option A is if we stay the course we currently are without an increase in the administrative fee, by the end of FY25, we will outpace what a minimum threshold she has that has been recommended at 130,000 is to keep on hand enough salary and benefits to fund the executive director for a year. There's also, you'll see another suggestion in there that's in regards to the technical advisor position is if the current interagency agreement states that, you know, all of those, that salary comes out of the administrative budget. The possible, I thought there is the large part of the work that this individual does is research focused, obviously, you know, as you mentioned, I'm usually flush with cash in the research right now, is do we offset some of that, that cost with the research funds as that allows us to extend out our base operating expenditures a couple more fiscal years as we sit with the agencies as they're called out here as the major pumpers about increase in administrative costs and possibly research increase. You know, again, Jeff, I think you spoke last meeting, was talking about from WSU, it's just one pool of money.
Correct.
It does research or admin. That's what we're currently exploring with U of I, is just one pool of money. So I think from an interagency agreement really is bringing the group together to move forward with budget wise is do we look at it as one lump sum of funds? And then the executive director has the budget authority with the subcommittee to go like, how do we separate that out and do that as such? So I think what you're looking at here is just suggestions for, not suggestions, reality, and then recommendations on ways to proceed the way forward. And in the sake of transparency, that's just laying out all of the options of this is where we're at and how we're currently moving forward.
Thank you, Rusty. You said that so much better than I did.
No, it's okay.
A few things go into that. Obviously, there's quite a few assumptions. One of the items is, you know, confirming what is a reasonable annual expenditure. I think Saline has assumed maybe 12,500, and that's outside of.
How are you defining that? Is that just?
The 10 to 15K.
Yeah,
I think that's like professional development.
Basically
events and
historical
marketing.
spending and what's currently been
Outside of
budgeted,
salaries.
and then
And
some
well
escalation.
monitoring.
And well,
Yep.
okay.
Because I think she includes the Genesee well monitoring in that as well, and this, because that is not currently in the current budget,
Right.
and so.
Yeah.
So I think the current budget is around 10 plus,
Yeah.
and this would elevate that to include that.
Mhm. So that's one discussion item, is if we think that's a reasonable amount, if you feel like it's small. So certainly, again, we're not acting on anything today, but as we look at what it is that we want to do, we could.
When
up
we
that
think about
number.
outreach, you know, it's not free.
Yeah.
Materials.
Mhm.
All that stuff too, but at least it's a good.
Mhm.
I mean, it is spoken to in there that the ARPA funds potentially are they used for education and outreach as well?
Yes.
Or is that specifically tied to a certain?
We have flexibility.
Yep. So, I mean, I really think this is still very much in the incubation phase. I mean, there's.
I think it's a great memo.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that is, I think U of I getting their ducks in a row as far as payback and moving forward. So when we hear from BP Boise and Tyler and Sadie, I think that'll be helpful in kind of like completing the memo as well.
Yeah,
So
figuring their plan of attack and hearing from the rest of the, the larger committee here as well. Eileen.
I'll step into this. As Mark Schessler likes to say, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. I think there's a sense of urgency on this, increasing the contribution from Pullman. I think if we don't get it as quickly as possible, depending upon what the next administration brings for Pullman, you may not get it.
I actually think you should be having a discussion. I mean, if you're not already talking about that, this is forecasting.
Yes.
I think this is a discussion you could bring to your constituents already.
Yes.
And the 25% is kind of the minimum threshold with a possible top end of 35%. So we're looking anywhere from 6,750 to 7,500.
Yep.
From that aspect.
Yep. And now that I got this in black and white, I have tools to use because there is a certain urgency in this.
Because that only includes an increase in the administrative budget and not
research.
that maybe this sets the framework maybe for future, if we move away from research or what have you to, so that part hasn't been calculated.
Seems to me like in the conversation in the subcommittee was that we needed to be implementing this in 25. And if we don't, those numbers just get larger as we go out. So in order to keep it manageable, we need to do it fairly soon.
Absolutely.
And moving the TA by another fiscal year, possibly two. So I mean, that's part of as well as a committee part of discussion.
But I do think we do need to explore, as you mentioned, a mechanism to move money around within these accounts. Because we're obviously not keeping up on the expenses on the research. As the research technical committee chair, I'm fully taking responsibility for being delinquent maybe there in that regard, but it's hard to, on the same token, when you have a balance of over $500,000, it's hard to get too excited about it. So I think we need to figure out a mechanism to balance those better.
I do.
And the thing for what's being accounted for in here also is what U of I is contributing on the admin side, but what we're not currently contributing on the research side. And if there is a payback, that also goes into the reserves will be elevated from that standpoint.
Yeah, and we also need to see what comes out of Alta's work, because that'll help us gauge maybe what research activities we may want to do and what those costs are. So this is certainly in its incubation stage. I would agree with that.
Could we come up with a scheme where we do more of on a set interval, we do a reanalysis of our fees? So I'm just thinking rather than kind of onesie twosie it, maybe we say every 5 years, we're going to say, we're going to talk about
did it
the
was
fees ought to be.
2019.
It's been a while.
So we're really coming up on about 5 years.
Yeah,
And
we
if you
are.
look at the table, it kind of seems to be about a 5-year. I think the 25% put us out to like 2030.
And I
even
think
want
to
to say
your point is
2031.
maybe codifying the fact that this is an actual cost escalation. It's going to happen every 3 years, 5 years. So administratively, where we all prepare for that, and it's but that's also going to take the groups coming together and amending the current interagency agreement to include that.
Seems to me we need to think about a schedule for us to decide how we're going to proceed as a group. And each of us need to go to our respective members and make sure they're on board for a decision in the near future, not the far future.
Yeah.
It is March now. I would suggest that we decide on this by summer.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And
We're
like,
talking about fiscal year 25, but if we put it off, we'll just keep tallying.
well,
Not if you convince me.
budget it
I know
in,
where the
right?
demons- I know where the monster
We're on different budget
Yeah.
cycles and such. So that was exactly the point is, I think we do have a little bit of leeway, like Rusty said, if we had to move some of the technical advisor funds around a little bit. That buys us a little bit of time, but things go by quickly and we want to be ready to make this, so starting the discussions now.
I don't know about you guys, we will be budgeting starting in July for the next fiscal year. And we try to look at a 2-year cycle, not just a 1-year cycle.
Lake County is even sooner, June.
Well, we're ready to get our budgets by 1st of August typically, and that's when we're pretty well committed, so.
Ours is right now.
So do we want to talk about what a fee increase might look like, or do we want to go back and talk to folks and maybe have that discussion again at our next meeting?
Well,
Is there somewhere where we feel like we want to start?
yes,
The committee made a recommendation.
Yep.
So I think what we should do is entertain that recommendation of a 25% increase to the administrative contribution rate.
Mhm.
I think that should be the floor or the bottom level of what we start talking about. And then I think the sharing of research and or admin fees could even come out later.
Mhm.
And not that I want to put it off, but I think let's focus on one thing at a time, get it decided upon and take action on it.
Yeah.
And free ourselves up for the rest of this.
And I think we're looking to get a new executive director, and it'll take a little bit of time for them to catch up to speed and be able to work through the nuances of maybe making it all one account. So I think because it is pressing, I agree with Mark, and that's what the budget subcommittee recommended, was to push forward with a minimum 25% increase to the administrative contribution rate, and then some of that other stuff follows potentially.
I would be loath to go a different direction than what's been recommended.
I agree.
Is this document shareable then?
It was in
Is
the
there
agenda.
Entities?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it lays
Yeah.
out the information really nicely, so certainly
Yeah.
all of the members can use it.
Jeff, can I ask you a quick question? So when you go on your end, if any, do you do 25% on the whole? Since yours is one fund, or do you do 25% on the 27, or do you do it on 47?
The last time we did the increase, it was
Just on the admin?
And I
it was
think
just on the admin.
Yeah.
this memo lists the numbers.
We don't, it's all
Well,
comes out of our central utility funds, so.
It's in there. I was just asking because he just has one central utility fund. I didn't saw from that standpoint.
Yeah,
Math works on just the half.
Yeah, so for 25.
they're gonna just ask what the amount is, and you get one check either way, I think, so,
Yeah,
Yep.
well, that's kind of how,
right.
the 25%.
And just as a point of clarification, I like that we have separate funds or separate accounts for
Different things.
the research and admin and various. I just think we need a tool to move money up around in there and reallocate those if we need to.
Mhm.
We just want a fundamental budget that we can resource out.
You can do that.
Use wisely based on what we have.
Yep.
I will add, in 2019, it was a 35% increase, just as a heads up, and that, I don't think that had been done for
like
another
7 years.
7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But anyways, a 25% increase would put the admin rate at,
Really, I mean, 25% seems high. But
it does,
It's,
it
but
does, but when you
it's
think
it's
about
only
it.
$6,700. It's
And it's also, this is a rate from the last time we did this was 5 years ago, so, and I remember seeing
not like there's been
25%, and I was like, oh, that's really
Any
high.
inflation or anything, yeah.
So, certainly this memo can be shared out though.
You better park that quickly.
Yeah.
So maybe I would then
Went to the
be
grocery
asking, members with kind of going back to their, their council and their administration and feeling this out, and dare I say, report back. Maybe not at the next meeting, but the meeting after, or at the next meeting.
Say next meeting. Let's get
Put
on
some
it.
heat under this.
Okay.
Yep.
And if everyone can't make it, that is what it is, but I'd rather set the goal. a little
At
sooner
least
than
start the
later.
discussions. Hopefully we have some.
You
feeling
put
back
the
from
goal out
folks.
2 months, we'll all wait 1.9 months. Human nature.
Okay, so we're gonna be talking about, we're gonna go with the 25%
Yeah.
minimum at this point, or do. The committee said a minimum,
That's where we go.
25, okay. To admin.
That doesn't require a motion or anything.
No,
We're just gonna
No.
go sit with our respective people.
Yeah,
and say
we're
this is what
just-
we're recommending.
this is, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
June.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, we could look at setting it for. I think the recommendation of the subcommittee was
Fiscal year 25.
to actually wait until the following year to set those assessments.
I just think it would be nice for us to commit to what we're gonna do now, so
Mhm.
that we're not.
But we're committing to not this next round, but the following.
Correct.
So there would be one more bill sent out to all the entities at the current rate. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Questions, comments?
We just have to be careful with semantics because we can't obligate future. Additional. You know, I mean, but that's, we're all like that.
We still have to set a fee now
But we
based
have to
on
set a
what's
fee.
gonna be in the future. You're not committing the future.
Mhm.
Commissioners or council people, they can decide if they're gonna pay and continue to remain part of it.
So be clear.
All right, questions online, comments online in the room? I think we're good
I was-
there.
I was
Oh, yeah,
just
go ahead.
wondering if instead of saying 25% increase, you just state the dollar amount.
We can do that. The
Might
dollar
seem
amount.
less,
Yeah, that
The
was.
dollar amount
25
is-
seems big, right?
I got that.
That's what I was trying to say is 25% seems like a tall order, but. in the
Oh,
end,
if you just say, yeah, so the increase would be from 20,000 to 27,000 for the major pumpers. And from 5,000 to 6,750 for the counties.
It's already 67.
It's already 6750.
That was
Yeah.
the two
Oh,
thousand
I'm
nineteen.
sorry, gosh.
It would
guys, gotta-
be the 33,750.
This next paragraph down.
It'd
probably.
be 8437 for the counties.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know
Yeah,
where
but
I'm
half.
missing that. It's somewhere.
And a half, but yeah. We'll round up.
Okay.
8440.
I could have sworn I saw it in here.
Hey, at 8,500, it's nice, easy.
I think you do. It's right above your table 5 there, 8,500 for the counties.
Oh, thank you. Good gracious.
See
Thank
if
you
we can
all.
read today.
Yeah. But I do like the suggestion, 25% seems like a lot, so maybe just presenting the numbers is a good way to go. Okay, any other comments?
Nice job.
That's
Thank
the
you.
number right
Budget
there.
committee.
Okay, so communications subcommittee. Anything to add?
No, now that we have the new infographics, we're probably gonna go out to the SEG, share those out, get some outside feedback.
Okay,
We'll set a SEG meeting here shortly.
okay, and then also to Eileen's point earlier in the conversation, maybe something around the Woods Bowl.
Press release.
I think
yes.
it's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, they're gonna send us an email, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
still
I
have a
kinda
little bit
wanna
of,
Capture a little bit of
yes,
why they're here. what they're
yes.
doing.
Yes, just prepare it. I mean, I guess it's May, but again, then it'll be April and then it'll be May.
Is that
so.
a firm date, May 7th?
It sounded like they were
It seemed
pretty
pretty
certain they
firm.
were coming
Okay.
out that week. So
Barring any unforeseens.
barring any.
They know it might snow, right?
I'm sure we can also revisit that discussion at next month's meeting and you'll still have a little bit of time around it. So if you guys want to strategize around what that might look like, I'll leave that to you all. I also have, public engagement and stuff will be picked up, but we obviously need a new executive director to kind of lead the charge on some of that as well. So just being realistic with priorities and what we're able to do in the meantime. Research, we have not done anything. I think we're waiting on a prioritization plan from you guys all, Robin.
Yeah, data gaps.
Data gaps. And then
And we had talked about getting that group together.
I think with, thanks, Rusty. I think with Saileen's, again, without having the executive director position to kind of help spearhead some of that, that kind of got
Mhm.
waylaid a little bit, but yes, we do need to look at doing that. Anything else on subcommittee reports? Okay, so we'll move on to other reports and announcements. We have a couple of items listed here. The first one was just that we have received some concerns in regards to the proposed biodiesel plant in Pullman. I think we had about 3 letters that came in. At this point, at least from the discussions that I've had and that I'm aware of, there's not a whole lot of information that we have to go off of. But PBAC will continue to track and monitor and see how things play out as additional information comes in. So it's on our radar. There'll be potentially additional fact finding to do. But we kind of just need to wait for more information to figure out what the scope and scale, what might actually be appropriate. We can also open it up for discussion here if people have ideas around it, but
Yeah, so they've withdrawn their
okay.
application. Well,
For that
the
area.
port hasn't,
For that
but
spot.
That's
yeah, right.
So again, I think there's a lot of information that's missing for PBAC
Yes.
to really be able to have a greater
We
discussion.
posed that question at the information meeting and yeah, it's a little vague.
Okay, good. But anyways, we had it on here because we did get a couple of letters, so
Yeah.
we didn't want to be completely silent on it.
Yeah, right.
Any questions, comments on that? No. Okay, the next one, I'm gonna see if, I guess I still have this shared. I'm going to try is the Geologic Lecture Series by John Bush. I'm gonna see if I can go to our webpage here. I'm used to working on Edge. So I did want to let Saline wanted to let everybody know that the series that John Bush was going to give has all been recorded. And I know Steve helped with a lot of that as well. So thank you, Steve. I'll show you where it's at. It's posted on the website. And I believe it's also available on YouTube. No, where it's at. It's under Aquifer System. But if you scroll down, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, just a big shout out and thank you to John Bush for doing this, but he recorded a set of videos and series that we can go back to that can be used as a resource as we get into different topics as PBAC continues. You know, we might decide to re-show this to the whole committee. These are all available for people if anyone's interested to watch them now. But we just want to let folks know that these are here. Super valuable. Again, just want to thank John Bush and Steve as well for working through these. I think there's a lot of good knowledge and things that are conveyed in these videos that I would hate to have lost. So just be aware that those are there. Anything to add, Steve, on that?
I guess I'll just add one plug on John Bush. I mean, he started working in the basin in like 1976. So this represents the summarized sum total of what he's learned about the geology of the basin over the last 50 years. So it's one place, if you're willing to put in a few hours to walk through these lectures with him, it's the best place to get the information that you can get it as quickly as you can possibly get it.
I was thinking to myself, it might be nice if we got put together a thank you letter or something and had everybody on the committee sign and send it off. So anyways, we can figure out a way to maybe make that happen. But anyways, I just think it's super cool. So I want people to be aware that that's here and that's available. The other piece is Saline did a wonderful job, also worked with Steve, who provided some great feedback, but we have some new web pages up on our page and they have much of the infographic. So, and she's also done a lot of work in the background just in the last several months as well. If you haven't been to the PBAC website, she's organized a lot, put a lot of new information up here, made it a lot more user-friendly. But one of those is the Aquifer System, which is again where you can find these videos. But again, see, we have a new graphic with the basin. There's a lot of really great information. This is the geologic cross-section, again, that Fuse helped prepare. I'm not going to go through it all closely, but I would encourage everybody to take a look at these because we've taken what Fuse provided and plugged it directly into the website, and it's really great. We also have one on the water project. So this is the second new page. Again, it starts to lay out all of our alternatives. So, you know, when people start asking questions, we can send people to our webpage and we now have something really great. That's laid out. It's hopefully in terms that the general public can understand, not, and, you know, really visually appealing. So there's a lot of information that's been preloaded onto this webpage. We also have the frequently asked questions. Just a lot of really great stuff has gone into this webpage. So significant kudos to Saline for taking that on and working really hard to get that all in place while she could. And again, I know Steve helped with that as well as the, you know, the subcommittee that worked on the graphics and whatnot. So just want to put a plug there and let everybody know that it's here, and we should push that as much as we can.
Tom has a comment.
Yes. Tom.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best informational websites I've come across in a long while. I think it's really awesome. The one thing that I noticed though is there's no security certificates, and a lot of the web browsers are going to block this site and not allow you to go to it. And depending on what organizations, they might have some pretty some security that doesn't allow insecure websites to even be accessed. So it should probably be taken care of.
How do we do that?
Ask
The host, the web host.
So HTTPS, and so a lot of browsers will just block it.
Yeah.
That's not secure up there.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Oh,
So how do we look at making it secure?
So where is it hosted?
It's an
I
Idaho.
don't know.
At the U of I?
Actually, I think
No,
it's
it's not you.
something else. It's
It's GoDaddy.
Okay, you can buy certificates direct from GoDaddy. And they will automatically apply them. You know, if you had a different system, it might be more difficult, but GoDaddy's real easy.
okay. I know Saline had brought up something about purchasing a domain or something, and I don't know if that would play into this or that's totally separate. This
We
is-
already have one.
Yeah, you already,
Well, not
but
a
that would
domain.
also be.
There was
That's what the
something else.
pollucebasin.org is the domain. And so all you gotta do is log into the GoDaddy account, the main account. Hopefully that somebody has that login information, and well, they must if they're building the website through it, but
I
Then
can,
you
we
can
can
just-
make that comment.
you can get a certificate for it. I mean, I'd be happy to help somebody do that if. you want.
Okay. Yeah, that's above my head.
yeah. Thanks,
Clearly.
Tom. Good point.
But that is a great point, and I think we can probably work to resolve that. I feel like I had something. Okay. Well, anyways, just everybody know that this is here. If you haven't taken the chance to look at it, look through it, read through it. You know, certainly it's never too late if someone has comments or something that we need to adjust, but it's here. And that's a pretty big
I think we'll do a
accomplishment.
press release.
Yeah. Okay.
I think people will be really interested in that.
Yeah, it's really, I'm excited.
I think that would be great. So. Okay, I actually don't have any other reports or announcements.
Alas.
I know. Woo, you guys are tired of hearing from me. But I will open it up if there's anything else for the good of the order.
Can you go to a website?
Sure.
The riversidefolk.com.
Okay.
Is it secure?
We'll find out.
Can I type folk?
Is that like a folk band?
Hopefully I
Yes,
typed
so-
in the right one.
This is it. This is
Not
it.
a time when you want to type something wrong.
Okay, so click on tour dates.
Okay.
And scroll down to May 20th, because we're gonna have a
Ooh.
Palouse Basin concert at the Kimmel Farm.
Oh,
Cool.
This band.
concert, okay.
They're super cool folk music. It's gonna be small, somewhere in about 50 to 75 people.
Okay.
We'll just use it as a fundraiser for water awareness. And maybe just a, voluntary donation kind of thing, but May 20th, it's at 7 o'clock, but we'll have food and drinks ahead of that.
Is that an invitation?
Yes, it is. So we'll invite our water warriors here and a few others. Probably our entities, a few other supporters of the basin. So-
I'd be happy to help with some beverages.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh,
There you go.
That's why I was
that's
kind of hoping
enticing too. That's-
maybe Woods Hole would be a little delayed and maybe they'd be around. on the
Yeah.
20th, But it's okay. It's
Take what we can get.
You can always pitch it to them. Maybe they'll change their
That's
minds, but.
And that's also the date, unfortunately, of the Three
Oh,
Forks Festival, the new festival in Pullman, but I don't know what they're doing, but I think they're done by like 5 PM anyway. So,
do both.
We can pre-funk there.
yeah.
Let's see, I have a comment. So on City of Pullman's council agenda next week is an ordinance that would propose some irrigation restrictions and code. Management, irrigation management is a better way to put that. So anyways, I think the agenda is probably posted. There's information up on the website about it.
As
but
of, yeah.
I just checked my phone.
Yeah.
Like it officially went live. But just a heads up, that's something that's been going on in the background. Myself and some Pullman staff have been meeting with Moscow staff and, they've had some irrigation management code for a while. And so we've had some discussions with them and lessons learned and done a lot of research. So anyways, that's kind of exciting. Pullman hasn't had anything in their code around that or water waste. So that's being proposed. We'll see where it goes next week.
So is Tyler gonna be able to contribute?
Tyler is going to be there to help give a part of the presentation.
I've tried to be there too.
Okay,
That'd be great.
And we're also.
yeah, so anyways, it's exciting, but it's a step in the right direction. And I know we have talks about a greater regional conservation plan as well, and then eventually bringing in the universities and figuring out what that looks like. But this is a big step for Pullman. It's one step in the right direction. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah. Any other comments for the good of the order? If not, I can definitely take a motion to
I've got
adjourn.
one
Okay.
thing I want to ask Mark.
Okay,
Mark, can you look and bring back what the make and model of the microphone that's in that room is and the camera? If it's easy to find. Whitcomb needs a new system, and this one, from the viewer's standpoint, is really good. The microphone's very,
I'll see if I can figure it out.
Okay.
take some photos.
It doesn't look like rocks or dirt, so I might not get it.
All right, well, it is a bridge of sorts.
It is that.
Yeah.
But it uses electrons, not concrete.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, okay.
lipstick in his pocket, so he'll make something up.
Paul has
All right.
something.
Carrie,
Well, then,
Sorry.
I'll go ahead.
No, continue, Tom.
I was gonna make the motion, but if you got more.
Paul has one more thing to add, I think.
Well, two things. So
Two things.
is it your new public works director?
I think there's an item on the council agenda
Okay,
as
The
well.
offer has been made.
Yes.
okay, good.
Yes.
So that's soon to be. Great.
Hopefully,
Excellent.
yes.
And then we're working on Water Summit keynotes. We have two
Oh.
potentials. One is Erica Gies, Gies. She wrote a book called Water Always Wins.
Ooh, my favorite saying.
Yeah. And then,
Seriously.
then the other one is Will Sarney, and he has the Water Foundry. Pretty cool, very thought provoking. So we're noodling on a couple
Okay,
and haven't landed on the date yet at the SEL Event Center. So
great.
progress.
Always in the works. Comes up before you know it. It's only half a year away now, right? All right. I would take a motion now, Tom, if you
All
want to.
right, so moved.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Hi.
Or was there a second? There wasn't a second.
Second.
Ah, man, okay. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. We'll see everybody at April 20th
See ya, thanks a lot.
PM.
That theology comes back up.
Yeah.
If you listen to
Smooth
math,
as silk. Good job.
the reason
A
I'm
little-
thinking that it
little
could be the
hiccupy.
way.
Not too rough.
You
No,
look
you're
at the
good.
map,
Good job.
look
I
at
think I gotta do something here at the end of it.
You know, it's
I'm
just over
not
the hill
so
from
great
us.
at it.
Cow Creek flows all the way to Hoover and into this blue
Oh.
spot before it goes.
Tom just made it.
Yeah.
So
Tom,
Cow
we
Creek
just
that goes
adjourned.
through
You have perfect.
Genesis. It goes into Union Flag.
Okay, well.
Goes into Union Flag. and
You'll
then
just
it takes-
adjourned
also.
And then Union Flag.
Into South Park and then into.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. We'll see you
He
later.
told me there's a big hard rock that follows the river
Staley
there.
Hill.
Good job, Karen.
And so, because otherwise it seems like in millennia, it would have ample